you find yourself to be a buffalo. You open your eyes in a summer morning and hooves and horns, and you're lying on the grass on the edge of a grove, and you just spend all day nibbling a bit here, nibbling a bit there, you know. And as evening comes on, fireflies appear like stars among the trees. And you are full of wonder. A buffalo full of wonder. And during the late afternoon, it's rained a little, and you can enjoy that feeling on your hide and your face. And as you walk west, and you see their hoofprints with rain pools in them, and the pools reflect the stars as the night darkens. And suddenly you feel alone, and you don't really know what it is to be a buffalo, what it is to be here. Sometimes perhaps you dream you are human, and then you wonder if you're a human dreaming that you're a buffalo. And you like to feel your body, you don't remember, I don't know, it's sort of like it seems to be an eternal here, and life is huge, and the horizon is vast, and the stars and the pools are bright, and they're the footprints. You feel like these are the footprints of your ancestors, the ancient buffalo ancestors. And you sort of trot along following them, and gradually you start to move quicker, and like almost involuntarily you're feeling your body, and you move faster and faster, and the night darkens and stars light up the grasslands. And you see an old hut in front of you, and it appeals to you, and you can hear bagpipes coming out of it. And a didgeridoo. And it somehow seems extremely appealing, and you just can't help yourself, and you just rush towards it, and you can see there's a light inside, and perhaps a fire and warmth, and there's a lattice window, and you just jump for the window, and your head, horns, and hooves all pass through, but your tail does not go through. Why doesn't your tail go through? So this is the famous koan of the buffalo. You pass through a lattice window, and your head, horns, and hooves all pass through, but your tail does not pass through. And now that we're in the spaciousness of Sesshin, every gesture we make, has a trail of stars behind it. Wave your hand, see the stars. Fireflies. Yeah. That is huge. People say vast, but that seems sort of chilly sometimes. It's like embracing and holds us. And you wonder about why your tail won't get through. And you visit your Zen teacher, and your Zen teacher says, well, and you're there with your horns until peering, trying to get out. And then the Zen teacher says, well, I think you have to sit with that one. And so, you think, I don't know, it's like, what is that thing that the tail might go through? sometimes you feel, wow, I get it. And then you rush into the Zen teacher and you bend over and you bend your knees and you lift your hooves and down. And you go, and the Zen teacher says it's a bit intellectual. And you kind of agree, and you go back, and you sit on the question in the Zendo with other people. You don't see a lot of buffaloes in the Zendo. The Zen teacher seems to accept you, so that's right. And so you're sitting there, why won't my tail go through? Why won't my tail go through? Tail, tail, tail. And you're full of doubt and like, maybe I don't know, I'll have to be reborn. I'll have to die and be reborn before I can get enlightened and find out about the tail, things like that. It doesn't seem quite right, and you can tell there's a certain sort of it's not about that somehow. And perhaps, whether you're a buffalo or not, it's going to happen in this buffalo life, this life. The only one you have at the moment. Well, it's completely possible you'll have other ones, but it's not necessarily true that your conditions will be more propitious for awakening. So let's try being enlightened as a buffalo. And you think about stories about buffaloes. They're common, you sort of remember that, where somebody asked Jiao, where will you go? What will you do? What will happen when you die, Master? And Jiao says, I'll become a buffalo at the foot of the hill. And the student is kind of eager beaver, and says, I'll go with you, Master. And Jiao says, you'll have to bring some grass if you do. So, I'll want supplies. So you're meditating about the buffalo, and then you realize, hang on, I'm the buffalo, I can't, I'm just going to meditate. So tail is the point. And tail that won't go through. And then you think of the story about the man who dreamed he was a butterfly, and when he woke up, he was a man, but he didn't know if maybe he was a butterfly dreaming he was a man, and you're thinking that thing about maybe I'm a buffalo dreaming he's a tail, so you're thinking he was obviously getting confused in this state. And they say Zen is not intellectual, so I won't do that, I'll just face it. And you sit with it and become, in a way, at peace. We might say that your doubt fulfills itself and falls away. And you realize, in my life something always doesn't go through, I need a really big truck to drive. And then my horn still stick out the window. And then there's this, regret of something I did. I was in love with someone and it went wrong, and I think it was probably my fault. All these things, you just start thinking about the tail that way. And you start thinking, all the missed opportunities, and you weep big buffalo tears, They run down your snout and in your hair and your face, down your neck. But they feel like real tears, and also it feels like some obstacle is being dissolved with the tears, And you realize, that story that big buffaloes shouldn't cry? It's not true. I was going to think about that, But you don't really care about that sort of thing. You're starting to notice everything about your life and how splendid is the dawn, how huge is each day, and you can't get away from its hugeness. And the only way if the hugeness makes you uncomfortable, you have to put yourself in a small pen and worry about whether your tail's gotten through or not, you know. And but it's actually, you spread your feet and move your heavy head around and shake off the tears, you know. And then you realize, you know, I'll be happy if I have to meditate just like this. And then you think, God, I've got to go in to the teacher and admit that I don't know why my tail can't get through. And then you realize, well, that's all right. What's wrong with that? And then it somehow comes to you, that's Buddha nature. Buffaloes have Buddha nature. Yeah. And even when their tail won't go through, they still have Buddha nature. So, and then you kind of leave, the session ends and you leave the meditation hall and you go out and you find friends. And every now and again, you sort of come on, you feel like there's more to get out, and there's always more to get. Maybe that tail story is about that too. And then you feel like the tail is somehow a wonderful thing. All the illumination of the starlight and the beauty in people's eyes is in that tail. That wonderful small thing. The one thing. Any piece of the universe, any piece of the tail is the whole buffalo, you know. Any piece of the universe is the whole thing, so we'll leave the buffalo there, sort of happily, you know, wandering through the prairies, chewing grass, and feeling pretty good about Zen, actually, you know. And you can see how you can think, well, what's the tail for you? And you can see how there are all sorts of things in the tail. God, I hated that X. Somebody's kind of crazy, and I think if they weren't so crazy, they'd be a really good friend. And that's a tail, right? And sometimes you feel, maybe I'm a bit crazy. You know? But you feel like, then you look, and if you look out the windows and you see the twilight coming in like a bardo, it's a sort of half dream world, and you see everything you see, the green of the trees and the fading light you see is complete. It too has Buddha nature. And so then you start to think, then you think of things and you think, you might think of things. Maybe was it Manjushri was sent? Buddha sent Manjushri off to find something that wasn't medicine. Find something that's not medicine. 1, 2, 3, go. And so Manjushri wanders off and looks everywhere and comes back and says, I could not find something that is not medicine. And so even the tail, even the thing you're sure you failed at, or even your dread of failing, it prevents you from trying. The tail is always there, right? And then, you get really sick, and you go in and the doctor says, Raymond Carver has this great line, the doctor says, the news is not great. In fact, it's very bad. So it's like that. And so the doctor, but then, what a wonderful thing it is to just even the experience of taking in bad news and walking out into the city streets and feeling the life of this earth and what it is to be alive. And while you're alive, you're alive. And after that, you have to deal with the bardos, We do the instructions for that tomorrow. And you see that the tail is in everything, the splendor of it. It's like the Ling Yun. was walking along, a pilgrim walking along, there's a famous story and you know it. And he's walking along in a canyon and he's been walking a long time, he's been meditating and he's tried this technique and that technique, and because there's always someone wanting to give you another technique, and in all sincerity. And so he's walking along, but he realizes in a way it's kind of not so bad walking along, trying to get enlightened, could be worse, and he's on a canyon, walking around a canyon. He walks around the canyon on the opposite face. He realizes it's spring because there's a peach tree in bloom. And the shock of the peach blossoms awakens him. And I don't know what he does really. What does he do you think? Maybe he bursts into tears, or maybe just laughs and sits down and looks at them for a while, Eventually he makes his way back to his teacher and he says, "For 30 years I sought a master swordsman. How many times did the leaves fall and the branches burst into bud? But from the day I saw the peach blossoms, I've had no doubts." So that's the tale too, isn't it? Well, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, that's still the tale. So, yeah, that's the tale. And then Keizo, a Japanese teacher, long after one of the last people to really try and drag the Soto school into koan work, he said, the village peach tree blossom peach tree was not aware of its own crimson, but still it freed Ling Yun from all his doubts. The tail was not aware that it was a tail. So, when you're sitting in the meditation hall, what a lucky thing to be able, that we can do this, I think every now and again somebody says, "And you did what with your life?" And I say, koans. And it's so great. And then, and it wouldn't be, what a marvelous thing to be able to turn towards the great matter and have companions on the way. To consider the matter of the tale. One of the teachers I studied with, he would do this, he'd get down, and he had kind of a big butt, and he'd go, what a marvelous thing to tell. Proving that being a true Zen master has nothing to do with trying to preserve your dignity. But you can tell like it's yours, it's here, you can do anything with it. You can become a buffalo, you can become a butterfly. You can take a time, and you'll notice yourself when you get caught, I asked an associate dear to me today, so tell me, what's the tale? He said, well, I was writing to my sister about the Japan trip and I just really wanted to name drop. That was very good. That sort of thing happens, just somebody rises up in us and we think, oh no, and that's the tale too. So the tale is all of that. The tale is the fact that I believe in myself when I don't. But also you can tell when you enter anywhere, enter the difficult places, you'll find that even those, you say everything is everything is luminous, right? That's cliche, Zen cliche of the day. And but it kind of is true. That's the thing about good cliches, Someone said to John Tarrant, the great way is not difficult, he said. It just avoids picking and choosing. And someone said, isn't that a cliche? In mouthy students back in ancient China too. And Jojo said, well, fair enough, but I haven't found a better way to put it. So everything shines. So you see that, and then the question becomes, what about your sorrow? What about the shit? What about, all that? What about when you really get pissed off? And if you really look, it's there too. Makes it hard to be pissed off for a long time and so on, or sorrowful for a long time for that matter, really. But you see, the Buddha nature, that shining quality is in all of it. It's been nice. And then it's sort of, I don't know, it stops us having maybe it stops us having temper tantrums, but temper tantrum is it too. But you'll see when this is true, it's worth throwing ourselves into, really throwing ourselves into it, For 30 years I suffered bitterly. How many times have I gone down to the Blue Dragon's cave for you? That's like something very touching about that. That we're all in this together. Zen teachers get just as contaminated by the madness as the students and all that. They all get tangled up. But going down to the we're not afraid to go down to the Blue Dragon's cave. We're not afraid to suffer bitterly. It just means I worked hard. It just means I get up in the morning and sat Zen. And the greatest suffering is to deal with the mind when it's not at peace. And it's not what anybody says to you that you find is embarrassing, or went to the teacher and the teacher didn't like what I said. I think they were very untactful about it. Just to say. And that sort of thing. And you realize, it doesn't matter, does it? My own personal thing when I was working really hard on my first con. I was working really pretty hard, but not making massive amounts of obvious progress. Except my dreams started to change, and my dreams weren't haunted. That was a nice thing. I was no longer wanted for murder, but couldn't remember what I'd committed. That sort of thing. So clearly, the difficulties of early stages and ancestral difficulties, things like that. And then I started having different kinds of dreams, where I was being guided and things like that. And they were all very nice, but I would walk into the interview room and the teacher would just look at me, but he didn't have to say what come on, what something. He'd look at me and I'd say, I don't know, and he'd just nod and ring his bell. And I thought, that's Buddha nature too. There's something pure about that. The integrity of being on the path and walking, wandering over the plain, seeing the stars in the ruts left by the hooves of the ancestral bison, sitting on the seat, the ancient seat of the ancient Buddhas, which is right here in the hall. We're all here, who've been here for thousands of years. So it's kind of what, I think it's a great thing, and I sort of I love it so much, I love that we're on the way together. And I haven't found another way to be free, I'd be quite happy to take any other way, if there were. There probably is, I don't know. But it's beautiful. And And you have that feeling that's strange, the strange way the world supports us, right? Weird stuff happens, like I have time for an irrelevant story. Well, I think one thing is, the Tibetan stories about life after life in the Buddhas are really about this, I think, about the way we get mysterious help and we become something we had not planned to become. And the transformation actually happens. After a while we realize we're spending a lot of time trying to stop it from happening, stop awakening from happening. But if I don't have a little telephone booth around me, what will I do without a very confining, if I do come out of the bathroom, what will happen to me? Like a kid who's locked themselves in the bathroom. And so that's what we're like when we're projecting ourselves. And if I risk trying to do something or risk failing, And then gradually in Zen you realize there's no success or failure. It's the one thing you can't fail at. The irrelevant story, I don't know why I'm telling this, but it comes to me. It's about how the universe, something sinks down and then it comes out, and it's for you. This painting behind me has, sometimes it come up and look on the right. These are the thinner ones are goannas, and the fat ones are saltwater crocodiles. And the little squiggle to the right says a swan, and that was somebody's name. The artist's name was Anne Swan. Long ago, I visited in Australia. I was teaching, but I went out to plateaus called New England, actually, in Australia, imaginatively. I went up to the city up there, and I had an old friend high school friend, who'd been my best friend in high school sort of thing, and he was there I guess he was doing some kind of teaching there, but he was hanging out with the indigenous people in the band. And I had a little, just as a favor, I did a little teaching gig while I was there, just spoke at the university. I think I did that. That's my story about how this came about, but I remember, and then we went back to his house and he said, well, there's this other woman who's indigenous who wants to give you a painting. And she says it belongs to you, it's for you, it belongs to you. It's just paying to help you in your work. And I'd never been in this town together before in my life, I think. Maybe I'd driven through it long ago when I lived in Australia. I didn't know her. And she was a young woman, and I said, great, I'm very touched. And I thought maybe I should feel embarrassed, but I thought that was very uninteresting, and so I didn't. And so, I met her and talked to her, and she didn't know why. She was the sort of person who just dreams things and follows instructions. So she just said, I want you to have this painting. And I said, thank you very much. And she turned around and left. So it was very, so I brought it home, rolled up, and now there's the animals that bless us. Now, the crocodile, they're the ancient creatures, like the Egyptians used to mummify the crocodiles. Saltwater crocodiles, and there's a backstory to it, which is that she's a swan, the black swan, I suppose it was shredded black. A very unusual event is called a white swan event. So, the black swans, and she's a swan, and her friend is a goanna, and goanna's a big monitor lizard, about 6 foot long, muscular, and runs fast and things. And the name goanna sounds like one of the central Aboriginal, indigenous names. And actually, it's central Aboriginal mispronunciation of iguana. Because it's a little bit like an iguana. The same category of being, there's a big monitor lizard. So there's that. But then the crocodile, her friend, the iguana person whose name she didn't tell me, was crossing a big river up in the Northern Territory. And the river in the wet season, you can't, if you've got to cross the river, it's a horrible thing because it's going to be months before the river goes down. You can drive across with 4-wheel drive or something, but you never know what's going to happen to you because the saltwater crocodiles live in. So the saltwater crocodile came up and grabbed her, and what they do is they roll you. They drown you, they roll you. Usually they don't really bite you in half or something, what you think, but they roll you. Her friend had a lot of presence of mind because what she did was her arms were free and she started pressing on the crocodile's eyes. And the crocodile released her and she swam to shore, so she survived. But her swan friend was so moved by this and so grateful, she did this painting. And so in a way that's was a painting into freedom from the jaws of death, about escaping into freedom. And the interesting thing for me how it came all the way from the big river up in the wet, I've been in the wet, and if your truck gets caught, if you come back in 6 months, it might still be there. You can't do much about it, when the monsoon just suddenly takes you suddenly, it just comes in. It's an dramatic but sort of kind of exciting landscape, and so when I think about that, so who the painter was talking about in images, some of the animals escape out of the paintings, and I've seen that with some of Alison's paintings. She spent ages painting bowerbirds, beautiful Australian birds, and she wrote books on it, and I explained all about bowerbirds and how they dance with a blue flower in the beak and they're blue. And next time I went back to Santa Barbara, there were no bowerbirds in the painting. They'd flown off, So I felt like the crocodile, and it came to us that way. Went down through the borders and it came to us. Now it's in your sight, in your souls, and stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to say. And this is a transformation poem that was just put on PCA Talk, that Corey Hitchcock. And I thought I'd read it to you. It's Thomas Transtra, and Bob Hass did a selection, edited a selection of poems. This one's called Secrets on the Way. Daylight struck the face of a man who slept. So something sleeping in the time of transformation, isn't it? We let go and we disappear, just as in meditation we let go. We don't try and keep the self we had and we disappear. His dream was more vivid, but he did not wake. Darkness struck the face of a man who walked among the others in the sun's strong, impatient rays. It was suddenly dark like a downpour. I stood in a room that contained every moment, a butterfly museum, and the sun, still as strong as before, its impatient brushes were painting the world. So, yeah. I think I'll just stop there. And, what is that tale? That's the question. Anybody have anything they want to say? If you don't look at me, I won't ask you. Thank you. It's just a wonderful thing. just to say what a wonderful thing it is we do together. And sometimes when we're wandering along the prairie and not knowing who we are and why was I born in Buffalo anyway, and then we can forget how wonderful it is to share this together, and that sort of, you can feel the soul of the room, it gets connected, the soul of the room has its own being and soul, its own intelligence together, so.
Please restore.